Yeah. Thanks, Liz and Grace, for helping organise this event, and to Kildare Public Participation Network and the County Council for hosting. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to speak to everyone today about the potential we see for a Peatlands National Park in Northwest Kildare and East Offaly. So basically, today is really about sharing information on an exciting proposal with you, everyone here today. Lots of you probably live around the Bog of Allen and will be affected directly by whatever decisions are made in the near future. So bear with me on this introduction, because usually it's Lorraine, who's our coordinator of the group, but she's at a conference today. So I'll do my best anyway. So it's a historic moment basically happened in November 24th was when we first heard of it in 2020, but then in January it became official, 21, that Biodermis stated that they were ceasing peat extraction. Some of us wondered if we would live to see this day. For many years there was no talk of an end date, and over the past 10 years we've been told 2025 and 2030. Then it was back to 2025 again, but suddenly last January it was official. So next slide, please, Jesmond. So in late February or March, a local group of national environmental conservation and tourism organizations for the first time grouped together with a vision to establish a Peatlands National Park on bogs previously used by Bordnamona for extraction. So I think that's an important point as well, that we're only talking about the bogs that were previously used by Bordnamona. Kildare County Council and the councillors have given us great support in the concept, and it's been directed that it's included in the next county development plan. The organisations who've joined together, you can see from the left there, you've got Kildare Bat Group, Wild Kildare, Butterfly Conservation Ireland with Jesmond, Lullymore Heritage and Discovery Park, where I'm from, Ireland's Peatland Conservation Council, our neighbours, and Umris Peatlands Park. So next slide, please, Jesmond. Thank you. So the vision statement. The National Peatlands Park Group aim to establish a new National Peatlands Park on landscape scale in the Bog of Allen in County Kildare and County Offaly, with a view to rewild and restore the Cutaway peatlands following the cessation of industrial-scale peat extraction. We believe that the designation of national park status for this peatlands region will deliver multiple benefits. It will protect and greatly increase biodiversity, mitigate climate change, enhance the social and economic life of Midland communities, and act as a catalyst for a growing sustainable tourism industry. We recognise that the Bog of Allen is unique in terms of scale and holds the potential for a true wilderness experience. We're inspired by Clara, Bura, Corlay, Scahaboy, Abbey Leaks, and other rehabilitated or restored peatlands, and see the potential to create new interconnected spaces for nature and also cultural, educational, scientific, archaeological, and tourism experiences linking peatland habitats across the Midlands, potentially forming a network of peatlands in the National Park. So next slide, please, Jesmond. So what is a national park? I won't read this out, but it's just in 1969, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature recommended that all countries agree to certain characteristics of a national park. And I think you can see their habitats of special scientific, educational, and recreational interest, or which contain a natural landscape of great beauty. And I think the Bog of Allen certainly fits into this criteria. The next slide, please, Jesmond. So we really like this description. It's the Norfolk Broads was a peatland area, and over centuries, a long time ago, they they removed a lot of the peat and re-wetted it. And that's become a hugely successful national park in the UK. And this is a quote taken from John Packman, their CEO. The national park brand is internationally recognized and hugely appealing to visitors. It is shorthand for a place that is special, is properly looked after, and deserves to be valued by everyone who visits there. So next slide, please, Jesmond. As we can all see, all the national parks in Ireland are located close to coasts, and there's none in the Midlands. And you can see we've got 5 on the western seaboard, and then the one in Wicklow. So the fact that there's none in Midlands is important. Some blanket bogs are included in mountainous areas, but no Midlands raised bogs, which are of huge international importance, are included. So next slide, please. This is what we hope to achieve. So a new relationship with our peatland heritage, national and international recognition. We want to create a network of interconnected areas of high nature value, develop existing tourism structure and create new peatland experiences. And we want to change perceptions and empower local communities. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed map. And as I say, who knows where this can go in the future? There could be a series of linked peatlands. But the green areas are the shaded areas, the green shaded areas are currently the Bordemona peatlands. And as you can see, we've gone with the UK model rather than the US model of national parks, whereby towns and villages form part of these national park areas. And this could potentially bring huge benefits. Also, you can see the Greenway and Blueway, their development, it's major investment going into that, and it'll really enhance the overall experience. So now I think I'd like to introduce Jesmond Harden of Butterfly Conservation Ireland, and I'll talk to you, everybody, again after Jesmond.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful opportunity and we're grateful to Kildare County Council for helping us host this presentation. I'd like to thank Ray, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the bogs and about the biodiversity value of those bogs. Now, if you flew over the Biodermis bog group region today, generally speaking, this is what you would see over a lot of it. You can see it's kind of a corduroy appearance. A lot of it's been cut away. There are strips of developing woodland in it, and some wet patches where there are drains and so on. But that's what a lot of it pretty much looks like. Doesn't look very promising from that photograph, but as we go through this, we'll show you what can happen. Again, there's another shot of it there that's fairly freshly developed. And as you can see, after the cessation of peat extraction, it looks pretty bare, really a brown desert, and emitting vast amounts of carbon dioxide as well, and other greenhouse gases. Now, this is what can happen when it's allowed to reflood. This area you're looking at here is an area in Lullymore, which is part of the Biodermis bog group, which was deliberately engineered to reflood. And you can see masses of many-headed bog cotton. This photograph was taken in June, and a stunning vista opens up before you. So a serious visual delight greets the eyes. So you have to be on your feet in the landscape to really appreciate the exquisite beauty of it. Now, what is the Bog of Allen? Well, the Bog of Allen has been estimated to cover an area of over 115,000 hectares, and 76% of this is in Kildare and Offaly. Now, in fact, it's not a single raised bog, but a connected array of smaller raised bog complexes, such as the Biodermis bog group, which is the largest single such complex in the Bog of Allen. Since development began in the 1800s, the Bog of Allen has been significantly altered and reduced by over 90%. Now, if you look at the screenshot there of the Google map, you can see where we have identified various important and biological biodiversity hotspots in the region. And a lot of them are centered on the Lullymore area, and there are radiating out from that. There are a number of others. It's important to note that these areas are areas of particularly high biodiversity, but the whole general area, it really is rich in nature. Now, what can happen? Well, you're looking at two photographs here. The one on the left is Lullymore cutaway in 2013, and you can see bare peat. You can see the vehicle track marks on it, fringed by developing birch and willow woodland. And then you can see the same area, the photograph taken from exactly the same place in 2019, which is only 6 years later. And you can see the enormous transformation. And what's actually happened here is heathland has developed on the area that was bare. So, and heath is an important habitat for wildlife. And some of the heathland types are designated habitats under the European Union Habitats Directive. Now, we were thinking of just discussing among ourselves a symbol for the proposal. This is a brimstone butterfly, really common around parts of the Biodermis Bog Group, and you can see a beautiful male here perched on a beautiful wildflower called Devilsmith scabious, which is really nectar rich. This plant flowers mainly in August and September, and you can see the beautiful sulfur yellow wings of the brimstone with the light pouring through. Beautiful backlit specimen. This photograph is as it is. It wasn't doctored or dickied up in any way. This is what the butterfly looks like. And just as the burn has the blue gentian as a symbol, we thought the brimstone might make a fitting symbol for a new national park for Ireland. Now, we're going to concentrate on just two animal groups, really, to indicate the biodiversity richness of the area. So Birdwatch Ireland have drawn up a list of birds of conservation concern in Ireland, which applies between 2020 and 2026. The amber listed birds of conservation concern occurring in the Biodermis Bog Group region are hen harrier, goshawk, kingfisher, merlin, skylark, swallow, sand martin, willow warbler, spotted flycatcher, goldcrest, greenfinch, linnet, whooper swan, mallard, duck, and teal. That's a total of 15 species, which is actually 19% of Ireland's amber listed species. And I've been fortunate to see all of those birds in the Biodermis Bog Group region. Now, the red listed birds occurring in the Biodermis Bog Group region, these are the birds of the highest conservation priority, are swift, woodcock, kestrel, meadow pipit, grey wagtail, yellowhammer, redwing, lapwing, curlew, and snipe, which is 10 species, which is 18% of Ireland's red listed species. And again, happily, I've been able to see all of those in the area. So they are readily seen, and some of them are quite abundant there. In particular, the woodcock, which is really thriving in the area. So in terms of its avifauna, its bird life, the area is a crucial reservoir for bird populations. And here are some photographs of the birds we have in the area. There's a lapwing, an adult on the left and a chick on the right. Lapwing has, the numbers of that species have plummeted incredibly. And they're under such pressure because agricultural practices have changed so much that the bird is just experiencing massive habitat loss, but it still finds a home in the Biodermis Bog Group region. Hen harrier, one of our rarest birds of prey. This species has been seen in the Biodermis Bog Group region, particularly in autumn and winter time. And there's another shot of curlew beside a rushy pasture, very close to Lodge Bog. Now, the bog flora and invertebrates, you can see different groups represented in that little montage. And I'm going to talk about the species richness at Biodermis. Studies indicate that butterfly species and their population abundance serve as an indicator of the range and quality of habitat types. In other words, the number of butterfly species in an area represent the general quality of habitat, because butterflies are inseparable from other features of their environment. So when you have butterfly species in an area and certain species there are other features, important features in that environment as well. According to a report published by the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture in 2003, the Biodermis region is one of the 3 important butterfly areas in Ireland. And that report was published in 2003. Now, I just couldn't resist putting this shot in. It's a bee orchid. I've seen it in Lullybeg, beautiful wild flower, just as an indicator of the floristic diversity. Now, species richness at Biodermis, this is the second information slide. 4 of the 6 most threatened Irish butterflies breed here. There's just a bit of background. There are 6 butterflies on the Irish Butterfly Red List that are considered in serious difficulty. In other words, they're under threat of extinction. But 4 of the 6 breed in Biodermis. Butterfly Conservation Ireland has recorded 26 out of Ireland's 35 butterfly species here between 1995 and 2021. The region contains a remarkable moth population, including endangered or near threatened species like the forester moth, which is endangered, narrow-bordered 5-spot burnet, which is vulnerable, the small purple barred, and wood tiger, and the small chocolate tip, which are near threatened. And the first 4 on that list are day flyers. You can actually get to see them. And remarkably, a species which was officially declared extinct by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, the suspected it's called, was found in Lullymore in 2018 and has been reported there since. So we probably don't even know all of what's there, despite the surveys we've done. This is a large Heath butterfly, a species under increasing pressure throughout Ireland. This butterfly is ranked vulnerable on the red list of Irish butterflies. The large Heath is rated vulnerable on the European red list. There's an urgent need to conserve and restore remaining bogs and desist from further destruction of bogs to halt the disappearance of this iconic bog butterfly. One of the world's leading lepidopterists is the professor of ecology at the University of Oxford, Jeremy Thomas, who wrote, "No one doubts that the widespread loss of peatlands in Ireland is causing numerous local extinctions in the species stronghold and is a very great cause for concern." And he wrote that in 2014. And the situation has only got worse since. This is the marsh fritillary, beautiful, beautiful butterfly, little male there basking on a leaf of Devil's with scabious. That was the flower I showed you earlier with the brimstone feeding on it. This butterfly has been described as like a stained glass window with the beautiful checkered patterning. The marsh fritillary is ranked vulnerable on the red list of Irish butterflies. It's declining throughout Europe and is placed on the Annex 2 list under the EU Habitats Directive 1992. This requires member governments of the European Union to designate special areas of conservation for this species. In the Biodermis region, 2 long-term monitored populations are known, along with outlying populations. It continues to thrive in these areas, but has become extinct on sites designated for it as special areas of conservation. So just to give you 2 examples, Cladonia National Park in County Kerry and Ballinafal Lake and Fen near Prosperous in County Kildare. Those are 2 of the 16 sites that the government designated for the marsh fritillary. The marsh fritillary has become extinct on both of those sites, but it continues to thrive in Biodermis, largely because the Irish Peatland Conservation Council and Butterfly Conservation Ireland manage the habitat especially for that butterfly, so it's well looked after. This is the wall brown butterfly. Nice male there basking on limestone to heat up. The wall brown status in the red list of Irish butterflies 2010 is endangered. The wall brown may be extinct in Northern Ireland, where it was last seen in 2015. And just to give you an update, 1 was seen this August in County Down, a single one. So in other words, over the last 6 years in Northern Ireland, 1 was seen. The wall brown still breeds in the Biodermis region, but this once common species is at risk of extinction. Further habitat change may see it lost from the area and probably from the county. Now, why is Biodermis so rich in bird and butterfly species? Well, it's the habitat richness. The main habitats that exist in the area are bog, grassland, scrub, mixed and deciduous woodland, marsh, and open water habitats such as flooded cut-over bogs and rivers. This has resulted in a stunning landscape. In some areas, habitats exist in proximity, creating habitat mosaics, like, in other words, like a jigsaw of different habitats mixed together with high biodiversity value, especially for insects or invertebrates. Rare plants like the green-winged orchid and basil thyme exist in the region. Scientific studies have been undertaken in the area, and there is considerable scope for further study applying the Irish vegetation classification. Biodermis is one of the few places where you can see wildlife that used to be everywhere in the wider countryside during our childhoods, where clouds of butterflies are still found, where grasshoppers still sing and cuckoos call. We cannot take these wildlife Edens for granted. And as someone who really is in love with the place and experiences regularly the wildlife of the area, going there at certain times of the year, it's an amazing experience and very moving to see the massive biodiversity there. There's grasshoppers singing, cuckoos calling, swallows swooping over your head, butterflies everywhere. It really is a treat for the senses. Now, there is management in the area. This is conservation grazing on Lullybeg Reserve. This is Butterfly Conservation Ireland's Reserve, Lullybeg, and you can see the cattle there that are grazing the grassland to maintain a grassland structure that favors invertebrates. You can't simply have a passive management approach. That there has to be active management on grassland habitats, or you lose species diversity. So we partnered with the farming community. Wildlife habitats need management to protect their high nature value, with cattle grazing the main conservation tool used. Butterfly Conservation Ireland has partnered with a local farmer to graze the reserve at Lullybeg. This protects the habitats and provides the farm with additional grazing, including late autumn, where poaching is a concern in agricultural grassland, but is welcome on wild grasslands, creating a diverse vegetation structure and avoiding a closed sward, allowing for the germination of flora. And there's considerable scope to extend this practice on a future national park where grazing is essential. And while I think of it, the Irish Peatland Conservation Council also have a grazing programme on their reserve on the Cutaway Bog in Lullymore. Now, we believe this is transformative for people and nature. Now, this photograph was taken in Lochborough during the winter, but we could easily have taken it on the flooded Cutaway at Lullybeg. And you can see the range of wildfowl there on the water. And there's something to see there at any time of the year. So it really is a magnificent place. It's a place, it's vast, 7,000 hectares. It's big enough to get lost in, which is what really a landscape should be. Nature, areas reserved for nature shouldn't be places that you can walk around in 20 minutes. Though this needs to be a habitat of scale, and only areas of scale, landscapes of scale, can protect biodiversity into the long term. So now I'm going to pass you back to Ray Stapleton, who is going to mention some of the social and economic benefits of our proposal. Thank you, Ray. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Jesmond. And really the beautiful pictures and everything. We really do something special, I suppose, on our doorstep, the bogs all around us, and it could be just so much more as well. So thanks, Jesmond. Firstly, it's the right time to open up an honest conversation about this, because as we said before, Burnham have stopped extracting peat, and there's different plans being put forward about what's going to happen. It's a real opportunity for the environment and for the people of the Midlands. Many native species, as Jesmond was saying, have retreated to small enclaves and are in need of habitat of scale, wild places. The community of the Midlands, they haven't traditionally benefited from tourism revenue as much as other regions. And we believe a Peatlands National Park has the potential to protect both the bogs and the peatland communities living around them into the future. As the acclaimed botanist David Bellamy said in 1986, that's a long time ago now, but he said of rewilding the Bog of Allen that it could be green growing landscape serving and being served by the population. So next slide, please, Jesmond. Yeah. Has to be one glitch.
Yeah, there has to be. Sorry about this, Greg.
We're grand, Jesmond.
control. It's not moving on to the new slide. So, oh, there he goes. Is that okay, Ray?
Thanks a million. Perfect.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Yeah.
No, brilliant. Thanks. As we've seen in previous slides that Jesmond shown, the former cutaways can become very biodiverse and stunning habitats, and this can be done with little cost. I've witnessed the rewildings of the cutaways on our Peatlands biodiversity area in Lullymore Heritage Park, and it's been the most rewarding part of my work in Lullymore over the last 25 years. That area there was a picture taken by a photographer, Michael Anderson. That's on our biodiversity area in the bog cotton. That's one of the first plants to recolonize, and in May and June it's like a carpet of white over the bogs there. So it's really an amazing spectacle to observe. And last August, I was locking up parts of the park, and I literally had to duck from these dragonflies that were flying around. So it just changes all the time. So yeah, but what people can expect from these cutaways rewilding is you'll get a lot of different habitats with lakes bordered by willow, birch, Scots pine, bog cotton, soft rush, ling heather, frockin. And then in wetter areas, we will get sphagnum growing again. And mammals, just in Lullymore Heritage Parks, in our experience, we've got mammals like the red squirrel, the pine marten. We've had lapwing nesting, skylark, and just an astonishing variety of insect life. And it's happened very quickly. And I think we are helped by Jesmond and the IPCC. There's a kind of a wildlife belt around Lullymore, but it's a good way of looking at what it could be. The picture of the motorway sign is important, and a big thanks to Photoshop and Stephen and Lullymore Heritage Park for that, because it doesn't exist yet. But it will happen someday, we hope, very soon. If the nuts and bolts were tightened onto this sign, it would really be an empowering moment for us all in the Midlands. Within a short time, nearly every tourism or hospitality business in the area would include located in Ireland's National Peatlands Park. And they do that because it'd be of benefit to them. From an international visitor's point of view, it'd be a sign to show that Ireland's moved from being a nation that neglected and industrialized its peatland landscape to a country that protects and cherishes it. It'll also change perceptions domestically, and I believe inspire local communities and entrepreneurs to embrace new possibilities. The next slide, please, Jesmond. Yeah, perfect. That's her. Yeah. So as a venue for different types of tourist-related activity, it's a great location. Fáilte Ireland are always telling us, and Tourism Ireland as well, that they say people choose Ireland, international tourists, because of our people, our landscape, and our heritage. And the Bog of Allen and the people around it, they have all this. So we've got a lot to give. And if you think of where we're located, we're just 1 hour's drive from Dublin, but it's a world away in terms of escaping the hustle and bustle of the city. There's a population of 2.5 million if you include the county surrounding Kildare, within easy distance for day trips. And the reasons to visit us could be anything from a leisurely ramble, a serious hike, family days out, water-based activities, cycling, visiting attractions for culture, education and fun, restaurants, cafes, or just simply to escape to a wild place. Then add millions of potential international visitors arriving in Dublin Airport. I think there was something like 11 million in 2019. And they're coming to explore our landscape, people and history. Any potential National Peatlands Park isn't starting without an infrastructure that's already existing. We've already got key destinations in Ireland's ancient East, and the story of the peatlands is being told in businesses like Lullymore Heritage Park, and the Irish Peatland Conservation Council. There's also really exciting new developments like Untitled Peatlands Park and the Barrow Blueway. So this could, if it's a bit of joined up thinking, we've got so much we could offer. The National Peatlands Park, it'll open up new tourist routes to the Midlands, and we've already communicated with Falch Ireland, the Just Transition Fund, and other groups in Midland counties. And we believe there's a brilliant possibility of forging relationships with Lochbura, Green Offaly, the Mid Shannon Wilderness Park, and many more peatland related attractions. So next slide, please, Jesmond. Yeah, that's it. So I've just taken very quickly on this. I've just taken just some of the examples of national parks in the UK. The lake and peat districts were once mining areas, and the Norfolk Broads was formed from peat extraction, as we said before. The tourism figures are astounding for these regions, and even though there's a huge difference in population with the Ireland and the UK, a small proportion of this type of success would transform the Midlands for generations and bring sustainable change and hope to communities. Common experiences of national park regions show that there's less unemployment, more entrepreneurs, the profile of the region is raised, and it's the right way, long-term way to protect the habitat. Next slide, please, Jesmond. So in this picture, that's the Heritage Park again, and I think it was 1954, that was a ditcher working in the bogs around Lullymore. So the future's more topical than ever, and the future of Irish bogs is more topical than ever, and the story of nature retaking its old territory following industrialisation will resonate with people in Ireland and all over the world. This is what will make this national park special. It'll be a celebration of our landscape and reflect our ability to change. It'll also be a biodiversity project on a scale that's probably, have to check this out, but it's probably unmatched across Europe. And it'll evolve and it'll get more special as each year passes. So basically this, I think the picture symbolizes a lot of what we've discussed today. We understand and respect the past, but it's time for change and a new relationship with nature. And it's one that will protect our peatlands and the people living around it. Next slide, please, Jesmond. So the multiple benefits, just in summary, it's for climate. Carbon storage is up there at the top because just carbon storage. Recently, I was at a farm peat presentation, and they had a slide, and it compared 1 hectare of Amazon rainforest contained 300 tons of, or 250 tons of carbon, and 1 hectare of raised bog, untouched, had 3,000 tons of carbon. And I think that says a lot. We need to keep that carbon in the ground. So it's for climate, for nature, for people, and for our local economy. The next slide, please, Jesmond. Yeah, so just the opportunities that and the need for change that we have to have. So the government and EU policy to deliver 30% for biodiversity and protected areas, and Kildare currently has about 3%. There's a need to store and capture the carbon, as we've discussed. Another stat that was there with President Higgins said in Abbey Leaks Bog was that even though the peatlands contain just they're 3% of the land surface in the world, they contain twice as much carbon as all the woodlands in the world combined. Bordnamona, the PCAS, all the rehabilitation, it's very positive, a lot of what Bordnamona is doing, but it does need scale and continuity for wide scale rehabilitation. It'll affirm peatland communities and the heritage, and there's going to be lots of, as we've discussed, lots of possibilities for new employment and tourism. The next slide, please, Jesmond. So just support and the progress to date. It's actually changing. We have a meeting with Bord na Móna in December. We've met with we've done lots of presentations for the councillors, and we're receiving so much support from the councillors. We've made submissions to county development plan. We've done presentations for the leader for the PPN network before, so we've reached out to communities. There's submissions on government peatland consultations like the National Peatlands Strategy. We've submitted for the midterm review. We've got Birdwatch Ireland support. We've presented to ministers, featured on local media, and as I said, that the discussions with Bord na Móna, they're ongoing. So next slide, please. So I'll pass over to Jesmond. Just we're lucky enough that Tina Claffey's working with us in the park now. She's going to be helping us with an exhibition on the boardwalk, and she's an award-winning photographer. Absolutely stunning pictures. So I'll let Jesmond take over. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ray. And this is a lovely way to conclude the presentation. Lovely, gentle lead into the questions. This photograph by Tina is a sundew, a Drosera species, and you can see the sticky parts where the tentacles are raised in the air. And this is a carnivorous plant. Now, bogs are nutrient poor environments. So specialist plants have developed that can avail of the limited nutrient content of the peat, but they still need nutrients from elsewhere. So this species needs this gets its protein from catching insects, which are attracted to feed on the sticky secretions and then get stuck to it and then are digested by the plant. So this is one way that these specialized bog plants cope with an impoverished nutrient environment. Now, the important point about that is these species don't live anywhere else. They need this. They can't compete with plants that will grow on more richer soils. Now, this is a beautiful sundew, and you can see the sticky tentacles on it, and this feeds on insects. This plant needs to get its nutrients from elsewhere because bog soils are quite poor and low in nutrients. So what it does is it attracts flies and they get caught in it, and it actually digests them. So that's how it obtains its nutrients. This plant cannot live in other environments because they are simply unable to compete with the more vigorous growing plants on nutrient-rich soils. So thanks to Tina for that photograph. Next slide, please, is the Raft Spider. It's Ireland's biggest spider, and it's particularly large towards the end of summer. And you can actually see them sometimes on the water, and they're a really impressive species to see. And it's kind of a bit of a shock actually when you see them. You think, wow, something that big must be dangerous, but it isn't unless you're a fly. The next slide is a marsh fritillary, and this marsh fritillary butterfly is perched. It was just you can see the proboscis, the tongue as they call it. This was feeding on ragged robin, and the marsh fritillary is generally confined in Ireland to really good, high quality grassland habitats with a high proportion of Devil's Biscabius, its only larval food plant in it. This species is really local in Ireland, and the extinction rates for it in the east of Ireland are shocking, and also in the east of Britain. It really has retreated westwards. We're still lucky to have some robust populations in the Midlands, but this species particularly needs landscapes of scale because it exists as a metapopulation. So you have central populations or core populations, and these send individuals to outlying habitats, and they repopulate those areas during good years, and they retreat to the core area during poor years. So it needs it needs connectivity for long-term survival. This is a dragonfly species. It is a four-spotted chaser, and it's really, really common in Lullybeg. It has all the characteristics in the landscape. It needs abundant source of water for breeding, plenty of shallow water for breeding, and a lot of insect food to feed the adults. So it's really common and thriving in the area. There's a particular area in Lullybeg where it's, as Ray was referring to it earlier, it's astounding how many there are. I mean, it's just like some years they literally swarm. There are that many. Very hard to see that nowadays in the general countryside. There's such impoverishment across the farm landscape, which really increases the importance of areas like Biodermis. This really stunningly atmospheric photograph here is bog cotton. And I'm sure everyone listening knows what this plant is. Beautiful plant, beautifully adapted to living in a saturated soils. It has a plant, this plant has a hollow tube that connects to its roots so it can take oxygen from the air. So it just shows you how finely adapted it is. And this is the bog builder. It's a species of sphagnum moss. And as you can see, it's soaking wet if you actually pick up a clump of it and squeeze it in your hands like a sponge. And this is the bog builder. This is essential for growing bogs. And without it, there would be no bog. And the water retention capacities and the carbon holding capacities of this plant and associated plants is incredible. And finally, this is a lichen called Cladonia Florikina. It lives on bogs, and you can see the red spores which produce the red spore producing areas there at the top. It's adapted to living again in really nutrient poor bog and heath habitats, but a wonderful photographic subject, and Tina's really captured the essence of the plant and the light behind it. So a beautiful composition. And these are only to be seen on bogs. So thank you, everybody, on my own behalf and on Ray's for listening and for your support. And I will hand you back now to, I think it's Liz.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jesmond and Ray. It really is. It's actually incredible the way you highlight the amazing things we have right here on our doorstep here. You know, and the reality is we just don't appreciate it that much. You know, I just did have a couple of questions, if it was okay, and there were one or two coming through in the chat box. This is an absolutely remarkable vision for that area, but if I'm right, there is an alternative vision as well from Bord Namona. Could I ask you just to tell us a bit more about, because I suppose you've mentioned your discussions with Bord Namona, so how are those discussions happening with Bord Namona? And maybe you can give us a sense of the timelines as well around your plan and what they are planning as well, just to give us a sense of maybe how we can help, you know? Well,
there is a review of the National Peatlands strategy being carried out by the Irish government at the moment, and we have sent a submission to that. And part of that review, and one of their proposals, and this is actually their proposal, is to establish a National Peatlands Park in Ireland. So we have contributed to that review, and we've recommended the Biodermis Bog Group region for to comprise the new National Peatlands Park. Now that review, it's I think the review is due very soon. It's due to be produced very soon, so we're looking forward to seeing the outcome there. As you alluded, Liz, Bord Namona do have their own outlook for the region, which essentially is to do with wind farms. And they're strongly promoting that idea as a climate action measure. My own belief is that climate action measures should not be at the expense of natural carbon sequestration, that the ability of a bog to absorb carbon naturally, and it should not be at the expense of biodiversity. I'm saying that as a conservationist, as someone who enjoys the landscape and loves the peace and quiet there, it wouldn't be the same. I can't pretend it would be. I mean, aesthetically, it simply wouldn't have the same resonance for me. And I'm sure for Ray and for other people. I'm not saying, I don't think anyone else who's involved in this proposal is saying that wind farms don't have a place, but it is an issue of place, and location. We are undeterred. We're presenting our vision openly and honestly to everyone who is interested in listening to us, and we will be doing that with Bord na Móna as well. They have their views. That's democracy. That's life. But we have ours, and as far as we are concerned, as far as I'm concerned personally, it's an asset for the nation. It's not for Butterfly Conservation Ireland or Jesmond Harding or Ray Stapleton. The land there belongs to everybody. So I believe everyone has an interest in what happens to that land. Ray, would you like to comment?
Yeah, no, I agree totally with Jesmond's sentiment on it. And really what's brought us all together is, well, we live beside the bogs, I think, and they're part of our home as such. And yeah, a deep, like beyond, like I'm involved in tourism, absolutely. A National Peatlands Park is, it brings so much to the region. So as a social enterprise, Lullymore will always, the Heritage Park will support what's best for the region. And environmentally, there's no doubt this is the best way forward. For the communities of the Midlands, there's no doubt. I think it'd create more jobs and a better sense of well-being. Jesmond talked about the sense of peace you get in the bogs, and that's real. That's during COVID, I walked on the bogs nearly every day, and I was very fortunate to live where I do. But you can't replace that. It's an intangible, if you like, and our link to the bogs is an intangible. So they're precious to us. I do believe that internationally we can do so much. I've brought around international tourists. I brought around German groups recently, and they have such an appreciation for what we mightn't appreciate so much on a wide scale, So it's a great opportunity. That's all I can say. It is an alternative vision. Yeah,
it is. I think I'm struck by the phrase that Jesmond used, an area to get lost in.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
Really
it is. And as Ray said, some of these things aren't measurable.
Yeah,
you can't talk about how many units of whatever it will save. It isn't something measurable, but it is there. It is something you experience on a personal level. But I think that's the relationship we want to promote with our landscapes, an area you can get lost in and to lose yourself in it.
Do you know the other thing that I feel as well? The Bord na Móna proposal, which is essentially to cover the area in, very large wind farms.
Yeah.
It means that we're still not getting the message to, like, what we need to be doing is moving away from the bogs as being something we exploit to being something that we protect and enjoy.
Absolutely.
And replacing cutting with wind farms is actually just a different form of exploitation. And I think that's a message that we need to get out. And I suppose the only reason I'm saying this is that there are some really engaged people on this call, and I don't want anyone to think that this Peatlands Park is a done deal, because my understanding is it's quite far from that. Not for want of work on your part, but so I suppose, is there anything that we can do, the people on this call and the people maybe who couldn't make the call today and the friends and family of people on this call, what can we do to support this remarkable vision?
The land is state land, essentially. I mean, Bord na Móna say it's theirs, but it's state land. It belongs to Liz, belongs to Ray, belongs to Jesmond, belongs to everyone on this call. Yeah. It's our land. And when politicians hear you, see you ringing them up and saying, "What, why don't you support this? Why, this is a great idea." You have to do it. Yeah. You have to do it. I mean, I'm talking about the group Ray and I are involved with in promoting this proposal. We've made a number of submissions. Like, we've done the running on it, and we're not looking for any kudos, but we're doing it on our own time. We're passionate about this project. Like, there's a lot of work has gone into this, but politicians need to hear people saying, you know, we support this. I want you to support it. They need to hear that message. They just need to keep hearing it. And when they keep hearing it, it starts to play in the head. It starts to play in a loop, you know, and they start to absorb it. That's really what's needed. I believe that this is a political issue, even though I don't particularly like politics, but it is political and the environment is political. It's just that simple. And we would like that message to go out. We would encourage everyone on the call to get onto their local councillors, get onto their local TDs and just say, we want a National Peatlands Park for our county. We want somewhere that we can enjoy ourselves, bring the kids, bring ourselves, jog, walk, a vast area of landscape you can just immerse yourself in and enjoy. And there's so much to see and so much to do there. And there's great organizations that will bring you around there. Like, you know, Butterfly Conservation in Ireland often brings groups there and people just, they're blown away by it. And one of the remarkable things I find is that people don't know about it. They, you know, I brought people there from, say, Dublin, who, if they go anywhere, they go to the Wicklow Mountains or they go to the coast. They don't go inland into Kildare. You know, it has no coastline or no mountains. So, you know, where would you go there? But when they come into the Biodermis Park Group region, the sheer amount of wildlife, they can't believe it.
I know.
They can't believe, they think it's a thing of the past. They're amazed when they see it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the appreciation that people have for it. And I think that, you know, it's a legacy issue as well for politicians, especially locally as well, if they put their name to it and see themselves and are able to say, look what we did. And I'm happy if they take the credit for it, as long as it happens.
Yeah, very good. There's a couple of questions here as well in the chat box. Just want to put both to you, if that's okay. Yeah. Is there a plan to consider allowing equestrian activities at the area, as this would be beneficial to tourism and local businesses?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Like, we welcome any you know, cyclist, horse. Like, it could be totally transformed. I've seen Lullymore transform over the years from a place that traditionally had no tourism. So it's wonderful at different times of year. You see these people you could have people from different countries all over Ireland, families. So to create
it already happens, Liz, like informally. I have seen people with their horses on the bog. It already does happen. So
the Blue Way as well, Jesmond, will be, you know, so there's so many there's so much could be done.
Absolutely. And I think your point about there's just a cultural thing in this country that, you know, quote unquote holidays is, as you say, either Wicklow or the beach. Or, you know, and that's just it's a historical thing. It's a cultural thing, as you say, because the whole centre of the country became about harvesting peat, really. And,
it did,
you know, not the wider story, you know.
And I've talked to international tour operators about that, and they say that they did associate driving through these black deserts, as you'd call them. So that wasn't helping us, you know, or these tour operators that were coming to Ireland, and that's changing. So this is why we have to grasp the opportunity. Yeah, and
it does feel like a key time now, because, as you say, we've stopped the harvesting, so there's this time in between now to work out what's the next step, and we want to make sure that next step is the right one, you know. Another quick question here. Re the wind farm proposal, has there been any study done re biodiversity, etc., under wind farm use?
Generally the approach, I've read applications for wind farms, and they do biodiversity study as part of the application, and some of those studies are terrible. Okay. And leave. No, sorry, I just have to be honest with you. Some of them are awful. Some of them are awful and leave out really important information. So, for example, and I'm going to quote it, there was a study done for Droichead Bog for the solar farm that left out the presence of a marsh tillery pollen. Marsh tillery is legally protected, and it left out the marsh tillery colony. And the colony was located bang smack on the access road they were going to build through it. And they left it out. And I objected, and they contacted me. I walked the site with them, and I literally pointed, there it is there. And the faces went blank. I don't know how much work was really done, Liz, to be quite honest with you, but some of those studies are good, and there's a genuine effort made to avoid areas of high biodiversity, probably because they know that there will be an objection based on it. So they're very variable. those studies. They vary.
Okay.
Some of them are desk studies.
And so roughly when will Board Namoni be submitting a planning application for the wind farm ideas they have? When will that be happening?
I think they've stated July next year.
Okay.
So we're in the third round of consultations now, you know.
Okay.
But people should you know, they can certainly contact Board Namona, have a look at the website, the Biodermis Wind Farm website, and there is a Facebook page set up by a supporter of us as well, the Irish, the National Peatlands Park Facebook page. So maybe people want to have a look at that too.
Find information there. Great.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we could talk all day. I'm a little bit conscious of the time, and we could talk all day. This is really interesting, but also really important. So thank you for sharing this with us.
Thanks, Liz. Thank you.
We might have you back again to do it again, because I think we have to keep getting that message out there. I want to thank everyone as well who joined us this morning. Just to remind you that this is part of a weekend of climate action events. There were 10 events taking place over the weekend run by Kildare Public Participation Network. Actually, in 1 hour, if you feel inspired, you could meet us down in Lodge Bog. You'll need your wellies for that one, because that's outside in person. And it is not too late to join that, because as both Jesmond and Ray have said, a lot of this is actually about experiencing the environment to fully appreciate and understand it. So please do join us. We'd love to see you there. And as I say, there are other events you can find out at kildareppn.ie/climate action weekend. Thank you, Grace, for putting that up. Also, huge thanks to everyone who made today possible. Obviously, Jesmond and Ray, but also Grace Clark, who is quietly working away there in the background as always. Cliona Kelleher, who conceived this whole weekend. This is the second year in a row we've done it, and we want them to get bigger and better every year. So please get in touch with us if there's other things you feel we should be doing, because I think one of the big, really important things about Kildare PPN and about this Peatlands project is the importance of communities. And there is an awful lot happening in Kildare to drive climate change. And Kildare PPN wants to highlight that and promote it and support it. You know, it's all about the communities in this area. So thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thanks to everybody. Thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks, Ray. Thanks a million. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.